The Psalms make it possible to say things that are otherwise unsayable. Now, lament is one of those things that is difficult to say, especially out loud in front of other people in a place of worship and discipleship, much like the one that we are in right now. Lament is something that the church in the West has unfortunately often left to the sidelines and has neglected it as part of its discipleship. Many of us who might have grown up around Christian circles may have been implicitly taught to only show things like contentment or joy or praise, which are all good, that these are the true markers of a mature Jesus follower, of someone who really trusted in God. Therefore, in that context, showing lament might appear as if we struggled with trusting in God, or that we weren't serious followers of Jesus. But I think the Psalms and these other parts of Scripture would suggest otherwise, that lament ought to be a natural part of our discipleship, where, here's our definition of lament, where lament is the human response to unjust and uncompassionate circumstances while confessing that God is still just and still compassionate. And this kind of lament that we see in Scripture, it reveals something about God. It reveals the character of God, where the main focus of the lament is not on us, not on the person doing the lamenting, but the focus of the lament is on who God is. Our lament acknowledges that God as the God who is alive and who is active in our world, not some non-living God who's distant. Our lament acknowledges that God is a just and compassionate God, a righteous God. Our lament to God acknowledges that God is able and willing to intervene in our situation, in the situations of our world. So we lament to this God precisely because we believe and trust in this God, not because of a lack of trust. Through this lens, the need to lament becomes a necessary part of Christian discipleship, as we will see in Psalm 142. Where Psalm 142 opens with this address to God that we've heard. With my voice, I cry to the Lord. With my voice, I make supplication to the Lord. There's that parallelism again, where it repeats something twice in two slightly different ways to emphasize its point. And I noticed as I was reading and studying this text, where it says, with my voice twice, that's really emphasizing the physical act of using our vocal cords, speaking out loud acoustically into the air what our lament is. Not just quietly in our thoughts and our hearts, though we can do that, but in this example, this is an acoustic expression with our voice. Verse 2 says, I pour out my complaint before him. I tell my trouble before him. So these opening verses of Psalm 142 are the opening address to God. This isn't someone who is just grumbling beneath their breath quietly to themselves. This is someone addressing something to God who is compassionate and able to hear. This next section of the psalm then is the lament portion, where it reads in the second half of verse 3, in the path where I walk, they have hidden a trap for me. Look on my right hand and see. There is no one who takes notice of me. No refuge remains to me. No one who cares for me. But then this next part in verse 5, something important happens. There's a shift that occurs. It says, I cry to you, O Lord. I say that you are my refuge. You are my refuge, O Lord. This is the shift that occurs suddenly in the midst of the lament. There's this confession of our trust in God.